Hello, everyone. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today for this session conducted under Consultrix 2023, organized by Ramanujan Consulting Club. So, for those who don't know, Ramanujan Consulting Club is a student run consulting club based out of Ramanujan College, University of Delhi. And we provide pro bono consulting services to startups and NGOs. Our past experiences include working with Shark Tank featured startups and international NGOs. We are delighted to announce that we are here today with the second edition of our annual flagship event, Consultrix 2023. It includes a plethora of competitions ranging from mock stock, bidding, banking simulation, guesstimates, and many more, along with panel discussions with industry experts from BCG, Bain & Co., McKinsey, EY, etc. Prior to these, we have a series of keynote speaker sessions planned, and today is the second keynote speaker session on how to get into consulting. The link to the other events of Consultrix 2023 is in the chat box, so for more information, do join our WhatsApp community and stay updated. As we all know, consulting is a highly competitive and demanding field, and getting into it can be a challenging task. However, with the right guidance and preparation, it is possible to secure a successful career in consulting. And this is what Ms. Nupur Jain is here to help us with today. Having a passion for economics, Nupur has worked as a risk and analytics consultant with major banks and financial institutions in India and the Middle East. Her professional background also includes consultancy roles at top firms like BCG and Deloitte. In this session, Nupur will cover a range of topics, including skills required to succeed in consulting, the different types of consulting roles, how to prepare for consulting interviews, and much more. She'll be sharing her personal journey and experience in the industry and giving us a glimpse into the world of consulting. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite Nupur to take to the virtual stage and share her insights on the same. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that you enjoyed the session.
Thank you, Bhagyashree. Thank you for the kind words. Hi, everyone. This is Nupur, as you can see on the screen. And I promise I'll try my best not to bore you on a Saturday evening and make the most of it today. And as I understand, all of you must be consulting enthusiasts or people who aspire to be into consulting. And I will try my level best to give you certain perspectives. First perspective as in what consulting is, what a consulting does, and how does that kind of help you grow into a lot of channels into your life, and of course how to get into it, what all it has to offer, what are the do's and don'ts, and what you can expect once you join a consulting, how to join a consulting, and so on and so forth. I would really want this session to be as interactive as possible. So anyone who has any questions, you can probably type on the chat, or you want to raise a hand, or you can speak up. That's absolutely fine with me, because the more interactive this will be, and it'll be good for you guys only. I mean, you can clarify anything that you want. I am absolutely a part of you. I've come from Delhi University, so absolutely chill scenes, and just be very casual and candid with me. I'll just give a quick round of introduction once again, so as to set a certain context. I'm also an economics graduate, then did my master's from Madras School. Then I started my career from there in Deloitte, and then I went to HSBC. Then I have also worked with BCG, and right now I'm with the PwC UK entity, working in the risk modeling space. I will, if anyone has certain interest as to what risk modeling is, we can come to that at the end. So I'll just begin my session. Bhagyashree, can I present my screen?
Yeah, sure, you can. Yes.
All right. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Great. I've kept the presentation as short as possible because I like to, speak more and sort of explain direct question if you guys have any. So not a lot of literature on the screen, but more on the practical side as to, whatever questions you have around consulting. So what is consulting? What do we do in consulting? I understand that a lot of you might be familiar with it already, but it's as basic as a client wanting your opinion onto certain things to the level that so for example, Deloitte is you guys must have heard about the Tata and Vistara, Tata taking over Air India as an airline. Deloitte India has gotten the project to sort of do every merger and acquisition assignment and how to integrate these two firms with each other, from HR to who will do what into the firm, etc. So that level of consulting also happens. And a level of consulting where just a basic opinion letter a consulting wants on a recent RBI regulation, but a bank might not be able to understand that particular regulation. So they might just ask you, "Okay, listen, can you just tell me what this means?" That is also consulting, and a big project of merger and acquisition is also consulting. So consulting comes into various aspects, big and small. All you need to know and do is, of course, you need to have a certain bit of soft skills, but of course, you need to be very relevant with the changing times. Like you need to know a lot of things which is going on and keep upskilling. So the next gen or the next kind of work which we consultants are also seeing right now is everything about how to be ahead of the curve, how to be into the big picture, which I also work with very closely with the ML part of it, the machine learning part of it. So anything, you need to be very well aware of it. You need to stay very relevant. You need to stay at the top of the game of the field that you're in. So for example, if you're into economics or if you're into risk consulting, you need to know what are the kind of risks there, what risk would you want to specialize in. So for example, climate risk is the new buzzword. Everyone wants to know carbon emissions. Everyone wants to be carbon net zero by a certain 2025 or certain year. You need to be so prepared as a risk consultant that you can advise firms as to how to be carbon negative, or how can your net zero emissions, how do you calculate that. Banks don't know anything about it, companies don't know anything about it. They're also trying to figure out where, that is where consulting comes in, that is where your perspective comes in, that is where you guide them how and how they will be able to proceed with a certain kind of a regulation, or be anything that they want to be up their game. That is how consulting works. Anything that the client wants, you need to figure it out. Even if there might be times where you might not have the right skill set, your particular team might not have the right skill set. It often happens that we hire a lot of people for specific projects as well. So consulting is nothing but, right now it's consulting. I am trying to be the other side of it, right? You try to consult me to give you more opinion on what to get into consulting. So consulting is as basic as this and as fancy as what it gets. So I'll keep taking breaks after one or the other slides. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to unmute and speak, or if you have any doubts on any new assignments that you might have seen over the newspaper or etc. Happy to share my thoughts on it. So right now I'll move forward. We do hear consulting life is very glamorous. It includes a lot of travel. There's a less of work-life balance into a consulting life. What is it like in realistic terms? How much do you actually end up traveling? Where do you travel at the end of the day? Absolutely. Depends on the kind of consulting you're in. Now, for example, I know a lot of Delhi University placements. Delhi University placements are either into EY, Deloitte, KPMG, audit side, tax side, mostly in the India facing offices. Now, in India, you primarily have two kinds of consultings. One is India facing consulting. What does India facing consulting means? So, for example, Deloitte has an India office, but Deloitte does have a Dubai office, a US office, a UK office, etc. A Deloitte India person might not be able to get a UK project because of conflict of interest. So every entity has a well-defined geography, right? Now every geography needs to be served from that country. Now, so for example, Deloitte India serves Deloitte India and Middle East and South Africa kind of zone, the APAC zone. So this is where we can probably travel with, or we can probably plan having our assignments with, or we can work in collaboration with the Deloitte Middle East and Deloitte India team. This is how the travel portion, if at all, happens. Now, there could be a chance because there are a lot of back offices of consulting now coming into India. For example, Deloitte USI or KPMG Global. So they probably are, global back offices of UK or US, and they give you assignments of UK and US, and that's what you work by sitting in India. So that's how that's like a cost center for them, the UK or US entity. So this is how the two dynamics of consulting happens. One is client facing, which is probably India office, where you will be directly engaging with the client, and one is a back office consulting, where are cost centers of UK and US, wherein you might just work on the technical part of the work. There might not be a lot of client facing because the client is sitting back in the US or the UK. Is there any question? I can't see my screen right now. Was there any?
So Harsh wants to ask, Indian offices of these firms usually do the back office work, right?
Not really, Harsh. So the part of consulting where I'm coming from, I've worked in Deloitte India. I've worked with BCG India as well. So our projects primarily deal with Indian offices. So for example, my clients were SBI, my clients were HDFC, my clients were, because I'm coming from a banking background, so my clients were a lot of NBFCs in India. So a lot of times so there's also something called loan staffing in consulting, where you as a staff of Deloitte might be loaned to, say, Credit Suisse or Citibank to work with their employees like a Citibank employee. So a loan staffing of that sort also might happen. So in an India consulting, you will work with Indian facing clients, which are Indian banks or Indian NBFCs or say Middle Eastern NBFCs. So India team works very heavily with Middle East because Middle East do have a lack of expats or a lack of technical experience or expertise. So that's why a lot of Indians go there. So last 4 months I was with Vietnam. I was in Vietnam. I was working with an SBI equivalent Vietnamese bank. So we do travel a lot for client-facing roles, but you need to make sure what kind of consulting you're entering in. So if it's an India-facing consulting, you might get a lot of client-facing. But if it's a back office, which is Deloitte USI or KPMG Global or EY GDS, these are back offices. These will be working with US and UK clients. I hope I was able to help Harsh with his question. So I will move on right now. Now, in terms of work-life balance, if you ask me, if it's an India-facing office, for sure the work-life balance does take a hit because you are directly dealing with a client, and dealing with a client does not mean just getting his work done. Clients do come with numerous iterations. They keep on changing their thinking, or they keep on trying to alter the deliverable which was agreed upon during the initial stages of agreement. So which is why your work-life balance might take a hit in India facing consultings. But of course the experience of sitting in a client office taking those meetings is very different. However, a US or UK back office consulting might not be that hectic, might not have that bad a work-life balance, but might not have a lot of travel opportunities also. You might be just sitting in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore office and working with a US UK team. So that's that. No more questions. So I will move on. Okay. Just one more part on the travel bit. If people I understand from college are quite excited on traveling part in consultings, travel is both glamour and non-glamorous in consulting. So while I was in BCG India, I knew people going to tribal places like Jharsuguda and Jharkhand and Andhra states, tribal states, because a lot of steel plants are there and your Tata Steel, etc. projects, huge projects are going on there. So that's the non-glamorous part of travel as well. But a lot of people go into, say, short-term or long-term secondments. And when I say secondments, that means short-term or long-term projects based in either countries, UK, US, somewhere in the Europe, etc. Where if you work well, if you perform well, you might be called for a short-term or long-term project. Everything at the end of the day in consulting depends on networking. How, even if you're sitting in India, but you have very good communication conversations with the US, UK clients, there's a very big chance that if you want to move or if you want to travel, things get very easy. Things get absolutely on your terms after one point in time. In consulting, if you work on your specified skill set and then you have good relationships with your clients or your partners, say. So that's that. Now, what are the skills required to get into consulting? You guys are right now in graduate school. There could be a chance that you might end up working just straight after graduation into any fellow consultings, or you might take up a master's degree like myself and then work in a consulting. The major difference I would say, and if I may advise, would be in the fact that right now, because you're just going out of college, you might not have any specialized skills, or maybe you might obviously not have any kind of work experience. You might be sort of getting into teams such as tax or audit, those kind of fields. But on the contrary, if you do a master's and you do a specialized degree, say in economics, statistics, MBAs, operational research, you will now be seen as a professional who knows decent amount of stuff. So if I was an economics graduate back in Delhi University, I did study econometrics, and I did study statistics, but the consultings don't perceive it that way. They do want, even in India at least, that is still a requirement that you do a master's from a half decent institute to get into one. Getting a master's done is actually one of the most easiest ways to getting into consulting and getting into a very good profile into consulting. So because now your skill set is halfway there, like basics of regressions, how to apply, for example, regressions. I'm sure there might be a non-statistics and non-economic students who might not know this, but for example, you might get into a certain degree of expertise, which is why getting hired in a consulting becomes easier. Now, skills required. If I'll be very honest, the most important skill that you require to get into consulting is confidence. Cannot stress enough on it. Now, confidence, but also having sense while you talk, I think is the most important skill. If you have common sense also, that'll also do. But so at the end of the day in consulting, what do, right? We advise clients, right? Before going there, we work as a team. We work with a manager. We have like back in BCG, we used to have 2 times in a week partner updates. And the partner thrashes you if you can't communicate or if you can't storyline what you're trying to present to the client. It's a bad day at the end of the day if you're not able to present what you prepared. So at the end of the day, everything depends on soft skills. Not taking anything apart from the technical skills, because if you don't know the technical part, what will you be useful for? But it's very essential in consulting that the way you talk, the way you communicate, the way you storyline what you want to deliver at the end of the day. Because see, my client could be an SBI, my client could also be a JP Morgan. Both of them might have very different level of expertise. I need to come down or come up to a level where I can have a level-headed conversation and I'm able to break down very complicated stuff to them in a very simplified manner, which they're also able to appreciate and especially implement. A lot of time in consulting, why we face a backlash is that consultants come and do their work and they leave and the project is not done. Who will implement this? How will we implement this? The clients become they at the end of the day, they're like, we don't know how to implement this. You just made a deck. What do we do of it? So it's very essential that you need to communicate well. You need to have the confidence to have a conversation with the client, understand the need of the client, understand and communicate with your manager, be able to have your partner, which is your, highest degree of seniority in a consulting, on the same page. So it's very important to communicate and storyline whatever you're trying to deliver at the end of the day. So, and it's also very important to make client relationships, client networking, and again, simplifying whatever you've done in a very simplified manner. So this is very essential, because if you have a good relationship with the client, now what happens in consulting after you're a manager, a lot of pressure, especially in India facing consulting, where client facing comes in, You need to be a salesperson also. You need to sell project. You need to get business to the consulting. If I'm a manager, I have targets that I have to bring, say, X crores of business. So my performance appraisal, my promotion, everything depends on how much money I am bringing to the firm. Because consulting is a profit sharing organization. How much I give to the firm shares with me in a certain degree, of course. So it's very important at the end of the day to develop, if you are an introvert or if you're an ambivert, whatever. I know it's tough, but try talking yourself in the mirror, try having those conversations with yourself, try to prepare before every call or every interview that you have, that how are you going to line your story. For example, I'm coming to interview you. You need to be very confident, and the way you speak needs to be very active, and it needs to give me a spark that you're very excited for a particular thing, which gives me that vibe that you're excited for this job. So everything works to and fro. And of course, the skills that you require, soft skills, of course, I can't press enough on these. Technical skills, you can't do without them. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know what the client wants. You need to deliver a very, very hard problem solution to them. So understand it from this perspective that the client is an expert in what he is doing. So if he's a banker, he knows his numbers very well. He might know much more than you do. But if you're coming for a specialized project, you need to be at the top of your game. You need to keep upskilling yourself so as the client does not know that, you might not have a background of certain regulation, but you read about it and now you're so sure, but the client shouldn't know that you just read about it. You should be that confident. You should have that kind of technical expertise in a very short span of time. And when the client kind of interprets you as someone who knows stuff, who knows what they're talking about, your game in consulting is very sorted, because the client will communicate to the partner that this person does very well, and the partner will also give you a lot of autonomy to handle projects yourself. So for example, if I'm in banking, I should know my regulations. And if I'm making, say, machine learning models, I should know how to explain complicated machine learning models first to myself and then to the client, how to break it down to the client, where the soft skill part comes into picture. I remember back in SBI, I used to break down that's for the economics and statistics people. I used to break down the linear regression equation and try to explain to the bankers what it means, how are we deriving what we're deriving, and how are we saying what we're saying. So you need to be very sure of everything. So that's why it's a mix of technical and soft skills. But for example, if you're in a banking, so say you work with SBI or HDFC or JP Morgan, you should be very well with your technical skill. You should do your coding very well. You should know your algorithms very well. You might not have a lot of soft skills, because there is a lot of backing back in industry, having worked with a captive also. But in consulting, you need both. You can't do without both. I mean, eventually you'll have to pick the soft skills part if you're scared of it. And once you start speaking up into conversations, into meetings, and when you start getting recognized, it gets very easy, because then you also start getting that kind of confidence that maybe I am making sense. It's tough. You start by little taking steps in each conversation, in each phone call, etc. But it does get better. For me, a lot happened over sitting in front of the mirror and practicing before a conversation with a client or an interview. I still do practice a lot in front of the mirror what I want to talk about, because if I feel this is not okay, then I'm not going anywhere. So that's the skills required part. Now, coming from a fact that you all are studying in Delhi University, I mean, again, depending on what profile any consulting comes to hire you, you should first go through the JD very well. You should see the keywords in the JD. What is it that the manager expects, the hiring manager? Often than not, the hiring manager will be not expecting a lot of technical mumbo jumbo that you should be aligned, because you're just graduates right now. But again, so if you can impress them with your soft skills, if you can impress them with your current affair knowledge, general knowledge, and the way you structure your conversation, that helps a lot in interviews. If you can just tell your introduction very well with a lot of confidence, if good grades, I don't see any problem in getting through, because they're not looking for a manager or a higher senior manager to guide a team. They're looking, can you work in a very dynamic environment where you need a lot of interaction within the team, outside the team. And if you kind of give that kind of confidence to them, I don't see any problem, clearing interviews. Any question right now? Any specific questions on the skills required? Any kind of example if you want me to give you during an interview? What kind of questions are asked? Anything?
Yeah, so Harsh is raising his hands. Harsh, you may ask the question.
As a beginner, how does one gain necessary knowledge in consulting as it's not limited to any particular industry? Um, so Harsh, I'm not too sure of your question. Necessary knowledge, A would mean that are you aiming a specific consulting right now? Say any specific team. Can you unmute him? If he wants to speak up, that is. Harsh, do you want to speak up? Okay, I'll try and answer his question like that. If in case he wants to speak up, then I'm okay. All right. Necessary experience in industry. So, for example, if you want to aim in a specific, okay, what happens in a consulting? So, for example, Deloitte India, they have a lot of teams. They have a strategy. Aditya, do you want to speak? How can I unmute them? Can I unmute them, Pagashi?
No, Aditya, you may unmute after Nupur
Am I
completes.
audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, actually, I'm a pre-final year student of engineering and I want to get into the consulting.
Yeah.
So I was just seeking that shall I pursue masters before getting into through campus placements, or is campus placement preferable for getting into it?
Sorry, what is your background again?
Yeah, I'm a Bachelor of Technology student.
So you're BTech, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So do you have an offer in hand for a consulting, or you're giving like a hypothetical situation?
No, it's not right now, but I was just seeking to get into it. So I
Yeah.
was kind of in the confused state that whether shall I pursue MBA through IIMs or shall I go directly after bachelor's?
Okay. Harsh, I'll also be answering your question. I'll just take Aditya's first. See, Aditya, and it's completely my perspective and my experience which I'm giving you. People can disagree. Everyone has their own path of career. I have a lot of friends back in BCG or in HSBC or in Deloitte who were just IIT graduates or NIT graduates, and they did climb the corporate ladder very easily. They didn't have a hard time. Now, what the hard time comes in specific scenarios wherein, okay, let me put it in a very practical way. If you're not from a very tier one, tier two kind of college, and including myself, I wasn't from a tier one college. What happens often than not is that you might be uh, hired at the end of the day, but you might not be hired for a very relevant team, because sometimes because you don't have a desired skill set right now, you might end up just kind of in a tax team or an audit team. Being a BTech, you don't even have that kind of background, but that's the kind of work you can learn on the job. Now, what happens after, and also remuneration wise, the jump off point that you get after a master's is huge. So for you to climb the ladder from there becomes very easy. So for example, you graduate from an IIM or from a Delhi School of Economics, your starting package is around 15-20 lakhs, right? Whereas if you start right now, it might be around 5, 6, 7, 8 lakhs. And then you will be slowly climbing the path, which will be anyway linearly less than when you do an MBA. MBA, from a good college, gets you a very good branding, very good network. So, for example, my last two jobs, which I've switched, is all because of networking, because I made very good networks in my current organization, in my last organization in Deloitte. Both my managers pulled me into their respective teams in HSBC or in BCG. That important networking becomes. And now, if you're from an IIM, IIT kind of background, you are in one of the best minds of the country, it becomes very easy. People pulling you directly if they know that you work well. So, if you know that you're going to get a decent job right now after BTech, for sure you can give it a shot. If you want to, probably take it easy before your masters, you want to study GMAT, you want to study MBA, CAT, you want to prepare well, for sure, go ahead. You can take a job right now. But what I will suggest from my personal experience, that the growth after masters become very exponential, especially if you do it from a good college. And that includes that if you want to take a gap year, I took one. Doesn't matter. But if you utilize the gap year, prepare for a very good college, you might end up straight up into a MBB, BCG, McKinsey, because you're graduating from a very good college. So I feel, because after college you do become a little lost as to what you want to do. So I think doing a master's give you a perspective, because you sit with a lot of people. So I think that's there. And okay, so I think that should suffice your question. If you have any follow-ups, let me know. Harsh, as a beginner, I'm going one by one. Harsh, as a beginner, how does one gain necessary knowledge in consulting? Talk to a lot of people. If you are interested in a certain type of field, find those kind of specialized people over LinkedIn, or you can, of course, you can do your general research over current affairs or over a specified field. But what you need to do is you need to sort of be so for example, on LinkedIn, you keep reading a lot of posts. Now, what posts interest you? You need to find what you're interested in, and then you find specific people, and then you try and understand what are the kind of work they're doing. So a lot of which happens over in a master's college as well. You get a lot of perspective from experienced, inexperienced professors. So get your LinkedIn profile well enough, talk to a lot of people, read a lot of the LinkedIn post. A lot of people nowadays post on their subject matter expertise, understand where your interest lies. And then you can either so for example, you find finance interesting, or you maybe find machine learning interesting. Plethora of courses. You can even start doing a course on Udemy. Is very price friendly. You can just 500 rupees, you can get a lot of knowledge from there. And then if you want to apply straight up after taking a couple of courses on Udemy, that's also a good strategy, because you have a certain background to it. So try and find what you want to know about, and then meet the right people, research, study about it. Let me know if you have any follow-ups on that. Harsh Sharma says that, ma'am, there is unsaid truth that marks matter a lot during CV shortlisting. They want someone scoring 888. Don't look other aspects. That how much skills they have acquired. I do not disagree completely with you, but I will say a lot has changed over the years, especially in Big Fours. If you have half decent marks, like if you're an average student, but your profile is interesting. Now, when I say interesting in the sense, how can my profile be interesting? I'm just a DU graduate. If you have done certain projects in DU, and if you're able to talk about it in your CV in a very crisp but very practical way, that if you've done a certain project, what was the output, what was the impact of the output, what was the analysis, okay, what are the kind of analysis that you were able to do within that project. So trying with your professors, and especially last semester, try and get engaged in practical projects, so as you can put that in your CV. So even if your score is not that great, Harsh, you can go ahead if you want to speak up. Then you can still write very practical aspects. No one wants to read a huge CV. They want to see how you can think analytically. Harsh, do you want to speak up? Okay, I'll move on then. Atharva Sharke, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please forgive me. I'm just passed out. I've studied economics as a major degree. Should I go for MBA, or should I start applying for consulting roles? I have skill like business analytics, Power BI, etc. So I assume that you are still a graduate, or are you masters already, Atharva? Harsh, no worry. Okay, Harsh, no worries. You can type in if because I can't hear. I don't know if everyone can. Okay, Atharva, if you're not a master's, you can for sure. You can for a year or two. You can if you want to take a certain experience into business analytics, you can. There will be slower growth if I be honest in my particular experience, because Power BI, Tableau are great fields right now, because a lot of dashboard building comes into play. So banks or companies are very interested to make dashboards. When I say dashboards, so for example, Google Meet is a dashboard, right? You're able to sort of click features, understand what's going on, or maybe a backend dashboard of Google Meet, wherein you're trying to understand what are the bugs people reported, how many times there is a problem presenting on the screen. So that analysis in a very crisp format, the product managers in Google would want to know about. So that kind of analysis and business analytics goes on into Tableau and Power BI. But if you want to raise to the next level, I will still advise you in analytics. There is huge scope, which is where I'm also coming from. So you can do great MBA masters from either IIMs. They have a data science course. Great Lakes has a good data science course, or even a master's degree from any statistics and economics institute will really help you get into data analytics or data science. So if you want to try out for a year and a half, I would say max, but otherwise try and building your skill set. Everything is about skill in this time and era. Skill is the only thing that makes you get a job or get fired from a job. So that's that. Okay. Okay, Human Manan, CA or economics graduate who has more preference in consulting. To be honest, in my recent experience in BCG, I would, and in BCG, no, any consulting right now, CA is a little getting a little outdated, although there will always be a need of CAs. But people do end up preferring either MBA finances if you want to get into finance. Economics is a different field. You might not be able to compare CA and economics. Economics, if you're done from a good college and get into data science or risk modeling and all of that, huge demand into consulting. CA, I might not be the best person. I do have some friends, but the growth is a little limited right now for CA. So I think an MBA finance might be a better deal. Jatin, ma'am, I'm pursuing BBA from Amity. Can I get into strategy consulting by distance education? Jatin, it's very hard. Strategy consulting is one of the most niche consulting, which your MBBs or even Deloitte Monitor or EY Partathon does. Good MBA colleges are a must. If you're doing BBA, if you want to, you can probably prepare for a good GMAT or a CAT and get a very good MBA done. That's the most easiest route into strategy consulting, because strategy consulting, they need you to know, hands-on business, kind of college background. If you ask me honestly, that's the easiest way to get into strat and ops. Priyanshi, can I enter consulting field as a biology graduate and after gaining relevant skills? Yes, of course. I don't think your bachelor degree will really hinder you. If you're currently a biology graduate, but you want to pursue different skills and you get those skills either by job experience or by doing relevant masters. There are a lot of projects even in biology or climate space which are coming in all the consultings. So if you want to leverage on that part, that also you can do. Environmental economics, biology, climate risk, everything's very upcoming right now. Okay, Aditi, ma'am, can you please elaborate a little more on soft skills required in consulting? So Aditi, soft skills, being able to talk on relevant topics, being confident when you don't know anything, right? Because for in an interview, for example, he tells you, okay, tell me about the recent, I don't know, very random, any current affairs, right? A recent current affair that you might not be very well aware of. That's also okay, because what they appreciate at the end of the day, that you're honest. So you can tell honestly that I am not very well versed with this topic, or I didn't dug too deep. I can tell you the basics of what I know and what I understand. So what they want to know is that, can you communicate what you're thinking? Can you communicate analytically, and can you deliver that to you? So if I am speaking something right now, am I making sense? Am I able to deliver a storyline, or am I just speaking random stuff? Because speaking randomly does not take you anywhere. The person knows that you're just blabbering. That doesn't matter, and that doesn't have any value. So if you're able to speak for like 5 minutes or say 2-3 minutes but very relevant things and very crisp answers, analytical answers, just tell them that, I might be wrong, but this is what I'm thinking, and I'm speaking as I'm thinking. That's what they want to hear, that you're able to speak what you're thinking very well. You're able to structure thoughts, and you want to speak those thoughts. Ashwin, ma'am, I'm doing bachelor's in environment science from Delhi. I want to explore more about consulting in the same field. Can you share insight on environment system consulting? Ashwin, you can probably send me a LinkedIn request. I can probably guide you to people who are into environmental science. I might not be the best person on how environmental science. So in BCG, I understand there is a social sector department. So they primarily work with the government. So there are certain government projects on sustainability, etc., which includes a lot of research work and going through a lot of, so the Ganga cleaning project and all of that. BCG was working with them, like something of that sort. So they do, consultings do have a social sector right now. But I'm not the best person because I haven't worked. I can probably connect you with someone who might be able to help you better. Harsh, I'm waiting for IM results. I want to make my profile. How do I do it? I share financial knowledge on Insta and also help by writing blogs, but I'm worried that I want to get shortlisted to my academics, please. If you're waiting for your IM results, I'm assuming you have scored quite well on CAT, because if you're expecting IM calls, IM is not the end of the world. There are plethora of institutes there. What you need to crack if you get a call from a good institute. Good institute includes tier 1, tier 2 institutes. What you need to do, make sure you sell yourself very well. If you have a good Instagram following or you make good videos, just make sure in your CV, whenever you get an interview call, you market yourself well, you sell yourself well, that not only that I can study and get a CAT score, I am also extending my arms into social media. I can communicate well, I can have the confidence to make videos, relevant videos, and I do write a lot of blogs. So it's very important to let the interview panel know that you know this much. You're already ahead of the curve like that. Don't worry about the academics part, because see, at the end of the day, everything depends on your CAT score and your profile, your basic profile. So, but if you're getting calls, do give the interviews, even if it's a tier 2 institute. It's fine. If you get a good placement in the tier 2 institute, that's great these days, and you can grow from there. So, but be sure that you're able to market yourself well during the interview. You practice in front of the mirror. You jot down all the relevant points and what all you have achieved up till now on your Instagram or your blogs, and then you market yourself well. That will be very well appreciated. Vedant, I have a gap year in BTech, but I'm expecting to convert one of the IMs. What should you do? 3 months. I'm good to go in consulting. Vedant, I think upskill yourself. If you have gap year, that's not a problem. That's a very common thing. If you're expecting IM, congratulations, you must be doing very well on your CAT. I'm expecting these 3 months, you can try and upskill yourself into data science or into these analytics fields, because even if you're doing in IIMs, every IM graduate I knew was working on one of these tools. So, your Power BI or your Tableau, there's one more from AI, I forgot the name. I'll type it if I remember it. Work on upskilling before you join an IM. That'll give you a great edge. Take a couple of data science courses if that interests you. If it doesn't interest you, take a couple of courses which interest you on that, so that you can have an edge before you join. Okay, Garima is saying, is FMC relevant for consulting? Yes, CFA and FRM both are quite relevant if you want to get into risk and finance. FRM, if you want to get into risk, becomes quite easy in filtration of your CV. So if you're an FRM 1 and 2 both done, they might be able to hire you. Hire to nahi, I can't say, but you will be getting a call if you're a CFA or an FRM. It's quite relevant if you want to get into those fields. If you want to get into risk, if you want to get into finance, that's then. But if you want to get in strat and ops, that might not make a lot of sense, because then they won't give you a job in strat and ops, strategy and operations, I mean. Okay, Sheikh, being an ENC engineer, how helpful would my degree be in pivoting to customer? ENC, I work with ENC engineers all the time. If you're hired into a consulting or you do a master's where you get hired, absolutely, because at the end of the day, consulting people, what they want is an analytical mindset which can think very practically and give object oriented results. If you know coding, that's the best thing in today's era. So yeah, not a problem. Can you prefer some skill course for strategy and consulting? I don't think there is any course that you can take other than, if in my limited knowledge, and a good MBA course is the way for strategy consulting. That's where all the big fours or MBBs try and hire from. So if you are an MBA from a very good college, they'll work very well for you. Naman, what are your insights as a climate change consultant regarding the changes presented by climate change and the most effective solutions for addressing them? Could you share experience? I haven't worked a lot on climate change. I might need to take another call for it because that's a huge topic of whatever I know. In a very brief, just if I can give you, there is a regulation by 2025. Banks are supposed to submit their carbon emissions. So, of what I know, what happens is and how are banks coming into picture from the portion that I'm coming from is that if banks are financing projects which are very heavy on carbon emissions, they are supposed to calculate the amount multiplied by the emissions, and that's the kind of cost or the emissions that they are putting out in the world, and they need to minimize it as much as possible, and they need to sort of stop. Of course, you can't stop funding projects which are carbon negative, but you need to sort of strike a balance is what banks are being advised. It's a capitalist world across the globe these days, so you might not have any project not having carbon emissions at all, but you need to be accountable for it. You need to know how much you're emitting, you need to know how much is supporting the other companies who are doing this, and you need to have that number published in regulatory reports. Happy to answer it offline because that might just take away from what we're doing right now. Ranjit, I have graduation in engineering, 3 years of workers and gap year. I've already given CAT, planning to do an MBA or ITs. What are technical skills I need to get into consulting firm? What are prerequisites? Again, for B school, if you're going to a good B school, you might not need that kind of new courses. You'll be given enough courses at that point in time. But if you're very interested and you have certain time, I will still suggest being a data science professional. And given the kind of growth that I'm seeing, if you have a certain decent level of maths and statistics understanding, give it a shot. All the IIM graduates are doing this because analytics is a huge part of the upcoming, or it's actually a huge part of the current consulting game anyways. Can't stress enough on analytics. Do a lot of if you can also pick up certain kind of coding if you have a background. I was an economics graduate, I didn't have any background in coding, but if you can sort of learn on Udemy or Coursera R and Python is a big thing. If you know it before entering, you might get the highest package after your MBA, god knows. But if you can, I will suggest to work on the data analytics, data science part of it if you're already getting a call from IIMs. That is. Khushi, can I enter consulting field as BCom honors graduate? You can. If you're campus placed, well and good. You can probably try some referrals if you still want to, but it's a little difficult getting straight out into consulting after graduation. So it's a little difficult. Either you can take the easier route, which I suggested, that is taking a master's from a good college, or you can probably try referrals, can keep giving interviews. It's a little tough right now, I mean, I have to be honest. Or you can probably do a CFA, that makes it easy to enter consulting if you're not campus placed, that is. Akhilesh, what projects can we work on our undergrad that can make us stand out? So Akhilesh, I would suggest you, again, my suggestion could be biased towards economics and statistics, and I'm sorry for that, but if you can work with a professor in your college who works on a lot of research projects or study projects, even if it's in macroeconomics or it's in econometrics or it's in statistics, and if that particular professor uses or has a background on a lot of algorithms which are going on, and please trust me when I'm saying this, these are not very complicated things if you sit down and study them, because economics and statistics people have a background on it. It's not difficult, but just need the right guidance. So if you work on those kind of, you can also work on GitHub. There is a website called GitHub if you want to get into the technical field. There are a lot of projects. What you can do is that you can replicate those projects. You can probably do a new project on it and you can put it on a CV. Huge value add if you're able to explain it, what you did, and if you're able to crack a project on GitHub, really helps. There are a lot of platforms. GitHub is there, HackerRank is there. A lot of hiring happens through HackerRank. So McKinsey, I know for a fact that a lot of technical profiles, they give a HackerRank test before the first interview because they want to know that you're at a specified skill set before they even interview you. So if you are into a little bit of data science, coding, economics, statistics, want to grow there, those are great platforms. Aditya, thank you. Could you help me? Technical courses, again, Kraken Consulting. I think I addressed this, Aditya. Go big on data science and coding. Your BTech, you be good at maths. I don't think that's a problem. Even if you're not good at maths, you can still, that's not a problem. Okay, so I think I'll get back to our project, but I think the Q&A has been helpful for all, way much than my deck right now. I will move on. Soft skills, I have mentioned again, confidence, huge part, spoken and written in English and some regional language. Why? You might ask. Spoken, of course, you need to communicate to your manager, partner, client. Written, you need to make decks. You need to write mails, and you can't write any random mails to your clients. You need to be very professional. The language that you use on your mails is very important. The synonyms of certain words and the way you communicate is essential in client mails. Regional language, why I say a lot of times that happens, and regional language can be any Hindi, Kannada, Marathi, whatever Why I'm saying this, a lot of times you have clients from those backgrounds. They are not the most comfortable, especially Indian clients, they're not the most comfortable in English. But if you connect them in Hindi or in Marathi or their, you find a connect, you find a common point in consulting, helps a lot. They become very easy with you. They become very pally with you. So, English, of course, but it's my personal experience, one-on-one having with a client, with that relationship, I almost had it all the time in Hindi with my Indian clients. So it's great. Converting your thinking into work. Now, when I say storyline is as basic as if I'm taking this session today, how I want to progress it, how I want to present this to you guys, that you guys can actually take something from me. I can just keep speaking and end of the this thing, PPT, and that's it. That's not the point. The point is how should I introduce it? How should I highlight it in a way that client can connect it with its problem? So if my client is having a problem that it does not have scorecards when it's giving loans, how does he see if the person that he's giving loan to is okay or not? He's not having scorecard, and I'm making a scorecard, but I need to tell him how my scorecard is going to help him. Now, if you ask how I'm going to do this, I'm going to tell him that my scorecard, which I build for you, will reduce the time of your relationship managers by 70%, and the straight through accepts, that is, this particular person, if this has this online, and then these are the specification of that applicant, is absolutely fine. The time saved is huge cost to the company. One, two, the relationship managers can give in more time to complicated applications where the scorecard is not able to tell you a definite result. So that time can be utilized in some other projects. Time saving is a huge part in an organization, and they want to really make the best of it. So if you save time for a company, that's what they want at the end of the day. So you need to communicate it well, so as you sell your project very well, so the client is happy, and if the client is happy, they'll give you more work. Then whenever you're meeting with a client or having a virtual meeting, you should be able to communicate. It should not be an awkward call. You should be able to communicate, how is he, how is she, what is going on in the organization, were they able to do a certain thing which we suggested them. So that ability to start a conversation, to ability to carry on a conversation, so as it's a friendly relationship, it's very important. Especially internally in a team, when you speak, when you join a consulting, it's very important to have an opinion. Cannot stress enough, because how will the partner or the hiring manager know what are you bringing to the table? So it's very important for you to speak up whenever, even in an interview for that matter. If you have an opinion, if you have a group discussion going on, speak up what you think. Trust yourself that what you're thinking is sensible. Again, if you're in a technical field, you're into coding, machine learning, or whatever, in a technical field, you need to convert a very technical language into very simple and soft presentations for the client to make sense of it. So this is where your soft skills come into play. This is where they help you grow into consulting. Then technical skills. I can't write all the technical skills here, so I've just written like basic ones. If you're into risk, if you're into strategy, if you're into coding, if you're into audit, if you're into IT, everything, there are huge amounts of field. There are operational risk, there are market risk. I've worked with so many strategy and operation folks. So technical skills, there is no taking away from it. There you have to need to know what you're delivering to the client. So the best technical skills is what they want to hire. Soft skills, at the end of the day, they can teach you, they can still grow you, groom you, but you need to be very, very strong with what you bring to the table technically, because a same model which I build, someone in Deloitte could also build. But if my model is giving better results, better accuracy, then I'm a better technical person and I'll be in demand. So if I'm able to keep up with the, upskill with the trends, keep up with the latest algorithms, etc., I'm able to apply, implement them. So that's on the technical skill part. What are the opportunities in consulting? It's a very, very funny world in a way. You are into Deloitte, you are into EY, you are into BCG, but you work with clients, you work with government, you go on secondments. Working with clients, often they're not, what happens is if the client really likes you, they might actually end up hiring you. They might actually give you a job offer if you're so good at your work. I've seen this happening so many times in my past organizations, that the client is so appreciative of their work and you've handled that work so well that they might give you a job offer that, come join us rather. And then there's working with government. I think that's one of the most enriching parts that I've done in consulting. A government assignment is amazing to work on. You get to work on ground root level problems. I remember I was working with India Post payment system. India Post, as you all know, they were coming with their payment systems digitalized. The reach of India Post or the reach of organizations such as SBI, it's beyond you that you can think of. They're one of the biggest in terms of reach into rural villages, into cities, into anywhere in the world that you ask. So it's very enriching to work with the government. You get to know so many things that you might never end up even imagining the kind of reach a government has. So again, you might end up working with a lot of government projects into any merger and acquisition space, into any regulatory space. So it's great to work on government regulated projects. Secondments, as I mentioned, a lot of times, a lot of secondment happens globally. So if there is a lot of demand in US, UK, and you're a top performing employee in India, or you worked on certain assignments with US or UK, and they kind of recognize that you're very good at your work, they will call you for short-term, long-term assignments. Then you can convert the job offers there also. They might offer you to work from there permanently. So those are the kind of opportunities consulting give you. It's a huge world of possibilities. What should I choose? Should I go for consulting? Should I go for industry? To be very honest, it's a very debatable question. If you, and it's something that you should not see it in an objective manner that, I want to go into consulting because I will get to work on very different things. You should also realize that at the end of the day, what you need for you to be relevant in the market is skill set, and that industry professionals do have very, very good skill set because they do a certain kind of job in depth. Oftentimes what happens in consulting, that you advise on a project or you work on a project, but it's on the surface level. You don't go into a lot of depth. Industry folks, on the other hand, go into a lot of depth because they do that particular work for years. So king of, jack of all, king of none kind of situation can take place, which is why you should work into both spaces. You should work in a consulting, you should work industry, understand what's working with you, but always be very sure that whatever I'm working is adding skills to my career, to my resume or whatever, because Consulting comes with its own pros and cons. There could be a lot of travel, there could be a lot of pressure because of client work, there could be a lot of pressure due to travel, there could be a lot of pressure due to multiple assignments happening at the same time. So work-life balance wise, if you're looking for a more sustainable environment, sometimes people do choose going to industry after working certain times in consulting, because consulting is a difficult world. You have to work on multiple projects. After one point, you need to get sales. You need to get projects, because how will the consulting grow? So again, should be an informed decision. If you get experience into both, you should always see what works for you. A lot of people have a perspective that I want to start with the consulting because then I can choose what field I want to get in. That's also one perspective. One perspective is that I want to work in an industry, I want to learn the work very well, and then I want to make a decision of where I want to switch. So that's also a perspective, again very subjective, and you need to make that choice for yourself. No one can tell you what you should do. I can only tell you that you should take both the kind of experiences, because you don't know what works for you personally and professionally. It has to be in balance. So that's that, and that's the end of the deck for me. If there are any more questions, I'd be happy to answer. I'm not too sure how much time we've left. Bhagyashree, anything from you or anyone? I'll be happy to take it up in whatever time
Aditi
you
has
have.
a doubt. She may ask the question. Aditi.
Yeah. And actually, I wanted to know that what are the growth opportunities in this sector, especially if we look at the like domestic sector itself in
Hmm.
consulting.
Hmm.
So, what is the growth opportunities and like how is it the scenario in the current market?
So growth opportunities are in, if you look at the domestic market, and I'm assuming that you want to work in an India-facing consulting, huge. You start with probably like an analyst or a consultant. If you join after a master, you'll probably join as a consultant. Consulting, the best thing is that you have growth almost on a 2 yearly basis. So you get promotions almost on a 2 yearly basis if you're doing your job well. So you can climb up the ladder. I know back in Deloitte, exceptional people become partners, which is the highest position in a certain era in a department, in a 29 year of age. So if you do good work, and if you being good business, there is no stopping. You become equity sharing partners. That is, you have equity of that particular company after a point in time. So opportunities are enormous. You can also have global secondments. You can also work globally if you want. So yeah. Anyone, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, my name is Athar, and
Yeah.
I have a slight simple doubt that if you can
Yeah.
observe, present all the unicorns and all the very famous startups,
Yeah.
all of them were consultants. Like all the founders of them were consultants before. So,
Okay.
like even I am aspiring to be an entrepreneur. So,
Hmm.
is it a good idea to start with consultancy and get to know all the industries first and where you can, put your hands and where you are good at? So, is this doable, or I should simply just start with my own venture?
Yeah, I am not the best person to tell you from an entrepreneurship point of view, but I can for sure tell you that. So even I've seen a lot of Shark Tank of lately. Of what I understand is, if you get a break into strategy and operations side of consulting, then of course that gives you a lot of limelight into that space, because if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to figure out supply chains and distributions, you get a very good idea working into a consulting, and that also includes working in industry also. So if you are in, say, Britannia or ITC, and you're in the supply chain or distribution channel, if you work that side, you might get very good hands-on experience into actually in ground level what happens in India, how distribution takes place, how supply chain takes place. So whatever entrepreneurs even I see in Shark Tank, a lot of them have worked into industry as well, because they get to know core, ground level work, actual work. So both our perspectives are there. I think if you feel that you're ready and you have the funds and you have a blueprint of your plan, you can of course start, but a little bit experience definitely adds on, either in consulting. Consulting may, if you have in strategy and operations, I think that'll be more relevant if you are into the entrepreneurship journey. Otherwise, in any industry where you can figure out a job into supply chains and distributions, or strategy in industry also. I think what you want to do at the end of the day as an entrepreneur, and if you can get a certain bit of relevant experience, takes you long ways, I think. So yeah,
Thank you so much, ma'am.
no worries. Akhilesh, a consulting project that you have worked on personally. Okay, I'll try and be brief. The last project that I was working on, one of the biggest PSUs in India. So they have, so a bank have different portfolios: retail, wholesale, student loans. So I was working with a corporate or wholesale portfolio, which is specifically small and medium enterprises. So they used to give loans to SMEs. Basic problem: loss making portfolio. Hires us, make us profit making. How? Two aspects of profit: cost and revenue. The part which, so the project was huge. Lot of teams work in consulting together to support one project. So it's not that one team will work on it. So what I was working on was on the to reduce the cost, as I advised earlier as well. How to reduce the cost? Especially PSUs in India, still they don't have proper scorecards, they don't have proper underwriting models. So you apply to a PSU, they will go through pages and pages, and their relationship managers will spend days on assessing if you're a good fit or not. What my job was to reduce the time. I need, if I make a certain model, a statistical model, machine learning model from the past data, which can tell you ki if this applicant is suffice in certain spaces on the variables which my model made, then you can accept this applicant. The probability of default of this applicant is quite low. And then certain cases my model might not be able to give you a quite yes and no kind of an answer. That cases the relationship managers can take up and save time. But right now they're going through pages for all their applicants, which is restricting a number of applicants they can actually give out loan to on time, because otherwise they will move to another bank. And B, the relationship managers have time to work on critical cases, critical this thing. So this will save a lot of time, and time saved is cost saved. So I'm working on the cost saving part of it. And then we designed their forms, that if someone comes into the bank, how should the form look like, what are the aspects the form should cover, and more on the strategy part of it. So in short, you get problem solving kind of projects in MBBs where you need to transform their units into profitable or not profitable.
Thank you, Nupur. I guess this ends the Q&A session. I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your valuable tips and experiences. And yes, aside from that, the link to the Consultrix event and the WhatsApp community is there in the chat box. So do join the community to stay updated. And Nupur's LinkedIn would be shared as well in the chat box. So if you want to connect with her, you can personally. Because of Inside IIM as our knowledge partner, we are providing free courses to everybody who have attended the session. So thank you all for attending the session. It was a great and valuable session.
Thank you, guys. All the best for your future and careers. Thank you.